Well, Happy New Day, CSA.
Happy New Year, Reverend.
How feels each and every one of you this wonderful first day of March?
Awake and ready.
How feels beautiful, handsome, enlightened, fantastically prosperous, and healthy you this wonderful, lovely new day?
Awake and ready.
Namaste, and I welcome all of you to today's lesson sermon. Brahman Sriganandaji, the guru of my guru, Roy Eugene Davis, used to tell his disciples, tune into me and you tune into God. Today's lesson sermon is titled Attunement. Attunement. One day I was at the book room where we mailed two journals, and I was stuffing two journals into envelopes when suddenly I was there alone. And I suddenly heard some footsteps. And before I could realize, Roy Eugene Davis was in the room with me. And he said, Samuel, will be going to Atlanta very soon for my first public lecture of the year. It was in 1978. And I want you to watch me when you go, because that is when your training as a minister will start. And so I kept in mind what he had told me. And about a couple of weeks or 3 weeks later, we went to Atlanta for his first public lecture of the year. David Sunday was then the associate minister, and I was assigned to him for us to see to the protocol of Roy. After some time, when we got there, Roy entered into one room and he sat down in meditation. And we were at the lecture room. And about some 5 minutes to the time, David signaled me that we must go for Roy. We went and we were by his side. We walked with him. He took his seat, and I sat up front. And as I sat up front, Roy sat down, closed his eyes for a moment, and opened his eyes and scanned the entire room. And then he started talking. And as he started talking, I kept on watching him. I started watching him. And as I watched him, it looked as if I had tapped into his mind. And I could hear what he would say before he said it. And that was quite an experience for me. And when we left, I said, well, now I will always sit up front and watch him. He never mentioned watch me again. Then he asked me one time to write him an article for the True Journal. And I wrote the thing, and I went and gave it to him. Then he read it. He said, Sam, what you have written is good, but Do you think the readers will believe that you wrote it? Because this is Roy Eugene Davis. This is not you. This is Roy Eugene Davis. I want you to write from your own experience of truth. I wrote another one. He said, this is also good, but it is still Roy Eugene Davis. Then I went back to my house and I said to myself, I'm not going to write even any sentence that he uses, anything that he says. I'm not going to write that. And he had traveled to give a lecture for a seminar outside CSA. And I was with one of the people living on the property. And I said to her, she was an English teacher. And I said to her, Roy has given me an assignment and is really beating me. And then he said, oh, just put the purpose statement and 3 or 4 points and focus on that. And I said, okay. I went and I wrote an article. Immediately, Roy returned from his lecture tour. I went and gave him the listing. He read about 2, 3 lines. He said, yes, Sam, this is you. I'm going to print this. You know, I received messages from all over the world, but one which was quite significant was from Turkey, was from a spiritual group in Turkey. They asked me for my books. And I told them, well, I'm studying now. When I finish and I write a book, I will send it to them. Till today. Even the prayer, the effective prayer booklet that I wrote, I didn't send it to them. But they really, really liked the article. Again, one time, Roy was to travel to Japan. And, you know, during those days, my studies, I was always bombarding him with questions. Any question which will rise in my mind, I will go and ask him. And I think he thought, I must fix this thing for this guy. Now, after he left, I went back to the house. And as I was there, some gnawing question arose in my mind. And, you know, like habitually, I thought I was going to ask Roy. Now, from the house I lived in to the meditation hall and then to his office, there was a little forest full of trees that I had to go through to go to the lake and then to the meditation hall and then his office. And as I started descending through the woods, in the middle of the woods, then suddenly the answer popped up in my mind. And then there was a voice clearly heard within, look, Roy is not the body that you see. Roy is a state of consciousness. And if you can tap into that state of consciousness, you never need to ask Roy any question. I mean, it was so clear that there was no doubt. And I went back and sat in meditation. I have since then never asked Roy any question again. And I started doing things that he would have asked me to do, but had not told me, do this, do that. Started cleaning the meditation hall. I mean, when I clean the meditation hall, when you come there, you know that the place has been cleaned. Even though when you go to the meditation hall, everything looks neat, but you see a certain touch. And the first time I did it, he walked in. When he sat down, I saw him going like this. And then he looked at me and he bowed his head like this. When we closed from the Sunday service, I went to man the book table. He came there and put his arm around me. He said, that was quite splendid, Samuel. And that was how he was with me. Whatever I did, he knew. And he will let me know that he appreciated it. It went on for some time, even when I came to Ghana. Whenever Roy will write a letter to me or through journal or a book will be sent to me, I will always know it. I will tell the guys, let's go to the post office. I have a letter from Roy. And truly, when I go there, there will be a letter from Roy. I remember one time I had some, you know, I think it was the time that we said we were going to build the other CSA at Adaraka. Most of the members thought I had gone crazy or something because at that time there was a ban on new buildings. And then I came to announce that we were going to build. And so about 3/4 of the congregation left. And I was there, and then this idea will come. We drew the plan on, you see, the shops in front of the building had back doors. So we drew on the Lizzie back door. And eventually the place was built in no time. But the thing is that you ask yourself, how do I tune in to God? Look, all of us are God. You heard the term, God is all there is. Eh? Are you? He said, yes. Yes, and what? Yes, I am. You see, I am is the name of God. And when they say God is all there is, it includes you. So you don't have to go outside of yourself to look for God. I mean, when I was going to Lakeland, I thought I was going to see God sitting down, reading a book or whatever. But Roy turned me into myself. Because most of the time he will ask me, when I ask him a question, he asked me, he said, what do you think about the question that you asked? And I will start. And he said, you see, you already know it. You just want reconfirmation. And I said, well. And then one thing he told me one day was, he said, Samuel, on this path, we learn by doing. And this is to all of you, the youth. We learn by doing. But to do, you must have an inner listening ear. You must learn to listen to God. You just don't get up and do anything. That is why the temptation of Jesus, he said, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. So you need divine inspiration in your life. And that inspiration is echoing in your heart and everywhere. When I started counseling services, one thing I noticed was that when people will come to see me, I will acknowledge their Christ nature. Within, I will not say, oh, I acknowledge your Christ nature, no. But everyone who comes in, I see them as God coming to visit. And we'll just talk. And as we are talking, I will say something, I will ask them something which may sound very stupid. But then the answer they will give me the reason for why they came there and will continue. And everything will be all right. You see, on the spiritual path, like Swami Shri of Teswaji said, you do not go to say, I'm going to change the guru. You are going there to learn. And you see, when you went to class one, uh, whatever they have taught you at home, you have to leave what they have taught you at home to listen to the teacher. You understand? What if you have watched cartoons on TV or whatever? You have to leave all that aside. And so, first, pray about it. Pray for God to lead you to a true teacher. And when you have found that true teacher, what is it that you want? You want to know God. God will express himself through the teacher to show him himself. When Swami Vivekananda went to Sri Ramakrishna, he stood and watched Sri Ramakrishna for some weeks, and then one day he went to him when no one was there, and he asked him, Sir, do you know God? And Ramakrishna said, yes. He said, can you show me God? He said, yes. But you must listen. And he listened, he did everything that he was told to do. And when Ramakrishna passed, he was his successor, one of his successors. But he became the most widely known disciple of Ramakrishna. And he was a lawyer. Swami Vivekananda was a lawyer. He went to America. He saw this great millionaire, Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller. He saw Rockefeller. At that time, Rockefeller was sick. And he told him, no, you depend too much on money. Give what you have out. Learn to give what you have out. Rockefeller listened. He did that. And that is why how the Rockefeller Foundation was found. But sometimes when worldly people meet spiritual figures and they are giving advice, when they go out there, they don't say that, oh, this person, what I'm telling you is based on this person's advice. You must look to tune in. You see, We say me, I. Your spiritual heart center is here. In the Bible, it is said, the wise man's heart is at his right hand, but the fool's heart is at his left. Hmm? The wise man's heart is at his right hand, the fool's heart is at the left. Where is the heart which pumps blood? Not here. And when you hear people say, like sometimes when players are going to play soccer and they are playing the national anthem, they put their hand here and on their left. I say, the people who taught them how to do that, haven't they read scripture? You are standing in front of the whole world telling them, I'm a fool. Because they say the fool's heart is at his left hand. Huh? Reverend John? Yeah, you are standing in front of the whole world. I'm a fool right now. I'm a fool right now. But tune into your spiritual heart center. You see, from the middle of the chest, a little bit to the right, where you point. And this is universal. When you, what are you? Me? Do you know me? You know? And when you tune in the that is how meditation proceeds. So, because when we were coming out of meditation, we anchored in our heart. And so when you are going to start meditation, start from the heart. And then let the attention go through the spine to the higher brain centers and sit and listen to the inner sound. That focuses our attention at one point, and the rest will be made clear to you. When you sit in meditation and you ask, after meditation, and you ask a question, don't get up. The answer will come. When I have needs and I sit in meditation, I say, Lord, how do I approach this? And then as I sit, that is why meditation, one pointed at focus of attention is thought. Because in the mind, there is a lot of confusion. And if you flow your attention to confusion, you get a confused message. But if the attention is one pointed, the clearer message will come. And when it comes, how do you know it is true or not true? It is clear. You know it is true when you step forth in the direction of what has been revealed. So, what Roy said to me, on this path, we learn by doing. Then, after some time, you'll be able to tell between your ego or someone's idea and the inflow of spirit's ideas into mind. You will get it. No question. And don't think that you know more than God. That thing, Nyame, we fatu nchen. Hey, God is talking to you, you say fatu nchen. Well, okay. But in all, when you attune, you see, when a radio is lit, you know that there is a dial. Wherever you turn the dial, it picks a certain frequency. But your desired frequency, if it is 103.2, All the frequencies you pick will not be 106, 103.2 until you turn the dial to that. From 80, 90, you won't get it. And from above 103.2, you also miss it. And so learn to correctly contact your inner self, not your ego, but that self of you made in the image and likeness of God, your God self. And even look, if you want to, when you are affirming, start affirming that God in me can do this thing. Huh? God in me can do whatever it is that I've been assigned to. And trust in God in you. And after some time, you will know that God speaks to you. One thing I learned from David in the Bible, one time he was chasing his enemies in battle. And after some time, they were like going, and then he sat down. He sat before God. That is how it was stated in the Bible. He sat before God and asked, Lord, should I go after them? And if I go after them, will you deliver them to me? And the answer was yes. And he followed through. But when God tells you, go, and you don't go, how can you know that you spoke to God? We learned a song when we were young. When we walk with the Lord. Hmm? And one line says, trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Trust God and obey. When attunement will yield you nothing if you do not do the will of God. That is why in the Lord's Prayer it is said, thy will be done. Doing, do it well. Do it to the best of your ability. And when you know that your ability is God's ability, whatever you do will shine. Whatever you do, it will be like you have Midas touch. Whatever you touch will turn to gold. Genius will express through and as you. And I want to assure you that if you do this, when we come here, we can sit down and the the person giving the lesson sermon can also sit down, and we will all know what the person is saying even before the person speaks. And so I have shared with you what Paramahansa Yoganandaji told his disciples, that they must tune into him and they will tune into God. And the experience I had, which the inner voice said, Samuel, Roy is not the body that you see walking around here. Roy is a state of consciousness. Tune into that, and you will know you never have to ask questions from him. And so they say a word to the wise is enough. Namaste. Huh?